I'm Mike Bankhead. I am 45 years old. Oh, that's the first to say that. I have been 45 years old. I'm a bass player and songwriter based in Dayton, Ohio, the Gem City,
Nice.
and the Wright Brothers, and lots of other cool inventors and very interesting musicians. Songwriters, we all have kind of something wrong with us, and that's why we write songs. It's a way to deal with things. One of my songwriting buddies from our community has a song called People in Therapy. And in the song, he says that we write because people that want to therapy. There are plenty of musicians that do both.
Yeah.
But I think that's the thing with creative people, in that substance abuse problems or dying by suicide because
Yeah.
their comedy, that's their part, right?
Yeah.
Their art is they use it as a way to deal with stuff. I think for songwriters, just the same. So,
It's the same. Yeah.
yeah, I write songs mostly for me. Like, I start writing them for me, and if I think it's not awful, then I let other people hear it. There's something communal and nice about sharing, and better to make a living doing this. So, obviously, the second you ask for money in exchange for a song, you become a business person, and well, you could call me that too. But
Correct. Yeah.
I like to do first to deal with things, and some of the songs you will never hear. So, you will.
Yeah.
How's that for I think this is who I am really quick bio.
That's a great short bio. But a great introduction. You're so right that, and we see it all the time. We hear it all the time that artists, musicians especially, that they say it, that, this is their therapy. But we kind of forget what that possibly means until, it's too late, until you realize, oh, that's what they meant in that song, or, that's why I love this song so much, because it is so personal. So it's nice to kind of hear that out loud, to be reminded that, yeah, they're writing it for, you're writing it for yourself and other people, but it really is more for you. It's like
Yeah,
an alternate form of journaling, I guess, in a way, if you can put it say it like that.
yeah. And a lot of songwriters keep it going after they get their lyrics. So it's not
Yeah.
my way, but it's a very common way. And along with that, there's a thing among musicians. You get so many endorphins, the good kind, from performing. You do a show, you've got it all out, you've had experience with these other people who are there to see you, and it feels so good when you're finished. And then there's a come down. And someone
Yeah.
pointed out to me that there's a lot of musicians that overdose, like after the show, or take themselves a couple of hours after performance because they can't deal with the their serotonin levels
Yeah.
head on down after the show high. And I thought that was interesting, and I never really noticed that about myself until it
No.
was pointed out. And then I was like, oh, it definitely feel good right after I get done playing, and then like the next morning it's like,
Yeah.
but
Well, it's kind of like training for an
and
event, I suppose, right? I mean, it's semi like
yeah,
anticlimactic, as they say. I mean, I hear, it's a thing with, people that run like long races, like marathoners, like suffer from like a large bout of depression a week after their race, for that exact reason. It was like you got excited for this one moment, and then like that, the moment's gone. It's like, oh well, now what? No, that absolutely makes sense. I never thought of that though. For
yeah, for me that means it's a good time to go to the song. I tend to write better when I'm well, not so bummed out that I can't sit there and be crazy, but bummed out enough to get feelings going. Another thing that I've heard multiple songwriters say is that our job as writers is to say the things that the listener wants to say but can't figure out the words.
words. Yeah.
So that means there's a certain level of openness and honesty and vulnerability that you really need to have in your song if you're making art that's going to resonate with people. And sometimes
Yeah.
that's difficult. You have to deal with things that you otherwise wouldn't talk about to another person, but like when you write a song, you're sending it to everyone.
Yeah. Where did your, we'll call it a love for it, you can stick in passion, I guess, or obsession. I'm sure there's a multitude of ways to describe it, but where did your love of putting your words, your story on paper?
I'd say probably first my love of reading. Teenage that my brother and I could both read well before we started kindergarten. We were both reading by the time we were 3 and 4. And I tried to read everything I could get my hands on. And I was always drawn to listen to music, meter and rhythm. So as a kid, I liked to read poetry. And I started writing it when I was in school, and it was awful. It's always going to be awful when you first start. And there's something to the kind of poetry that has a rhythmic pattern to it that feels musical. Like I think about Fred Brown, obviously.
Yeah,
Even if you read enough Shakespeare, right, you get enough of that iambic
it's there. Yeah,
pattern there. So yeah, from the time I was a kid, even before I really knew, even thought about learning how to do anything musical, I was always fascinated by the rhythm and pattern of words. I'm kind of a word language nerd. I learned French and Spanish. Those are my second and third languages. Even if I can't hear like the words, each of those languages has a very unique rhythm.
yeah,
But even if you were just to replace the syllables that make sense with stand-in nonsense syllables, I'd be able to pick French and Spanish out of a sentence or out of other nonsense syllables because each of those languages has its own unique cadence. Right?
yeah.
And that's one of the things that I enjoy about learning language and playing with words. So it was probably always meant to be from the time that mom made sure that I could read.
Yeah. And so then, from that love of it, and just the words alone, I'm sure an emotion became behind it eventually, and the story, your own story, fell onto the paper versus just hearing, I'm sure, songs on the radio or reading stories and wanting to just mimic them. So when did your emotions, or what caused your emotions and feelings and thoughts, spill onto the paper? When did that occur?
Puberty. I said when that time of your life when we're all kind of messed up, and
Yeah.
and it's interesting. That's the same time where I started making my own music choices as opposed to just listening to what is on in the house. Because we're like, oh, nobody understands me, and I'm so unique and tortured. And then you listen to a song on the radio, and it's like, oh, that's how I feel. And I, yeah, I feel like for people, the music you discover within the ages of 12 and 16, you probably are always going to love it in some way, and it's definitely the case for me. So like the
Yeah.
music I was into when I was a teenager, I still love most of it. Part of it is that a lot of what's good music, but even the bad music sometimes, I
You still
hear
go
it.
back to, yeah.
Yeah, and as a musician now, I'm much more. I'm in a better position to distinguish. Not that music is subjective. I'm in a better position to say, "Oh, okay, this is really good," or "Really welcome to this," and that was not so much. But even the stuff that I don't recognize as technically good anymore, I'm like, I still like to hear it because
Yeah.
of what I was at the time. And so much of it is where you were, and who you were, and what was going on in your life. But I wrote the writing that I did picked up in my teenage years because dealing with the person that you're changing into, right? And then eventually I figured out how to use music and put the words and the music together. It's what's a little secret. I don't get writer's block often, but when I do, I go back to the stuff I wrote when I was a teenager, most of which is foreign. However, when I go and read it, I remember the headspace I was in, and
Yeah.
that is a decent writer's block breaker for me. And I have even recycled a couple of sets of song lyrics I wrote when I was 18 and 19 and had to update them to get rid of some references to technology that we don't use anymore. But but, but some of them, every now and then I find one good enough that I'm like, all I have to do is rework this a little bit and I could use it
Yeah.
for a song. There are still a few in there. I might go back to someday if I'm desperate again.
Well, and that makes sense too, right? I mean, it's just like anything else you might put down on paper, or work on, even just even a building project, right? You let it go, and then years later you come back to it and be like, you have a whole new set of skills and tools and understanding, and in this case, you have a whole new way of describing the emotions. I we have a 2-year old and a 6-month old, but we always my wife and I always like to compare our 2-year old to the days that we were middle school teachers, because emotionally, in many ways too, we could argue that one too. Emotionally, they're at the same place. The only difference is one
Once got
version
words.
of you has words, right, to just tell you what's going on. The other one just knows how to be upset and cry. And we look at the younger, the little one crying, we're like, oh, they're having a tantrum, or they're having a breakdown, or why are they doing this? But that's the only way they have to describe it. And then you look at further along, in middle school compared to an adult. Really, the only difference is now as an adult compared to when you were in middle school or puberty, you have a better vocabulary and a better understanding what those emotions are. Whereas when you were in middle school, you kind of could say that you were sad. But if somebody was like, well, why are you sad about that? Well, I don't know, and that's it. That's it. And then you really don't know. So that makes sense that you'd want to revisit the words that you put down on paper. And I'm sure, as you understand yourself more, you can put some of the things you're dealing with as an adult now, into your songwriting. Am I right?
Oh yeah. Obviously, as we grow, some of our interests change. I read something, you know, let's say I write something, when I was 16 or 17, my song that broke my heart. I mean, you remember what that feels like? You're like, you're 16 or 17 is like, looking back on it, you can deal with it more. On the flip side, things that I wrote after a show someone close to me died, well, grief is different because that doesn't stop being a thing.
Right.
Even though a lot of people who are horribly misguided will tell grieving people that, oh, we'll do over. No, you won't do over. There's a piece of you that's always going to be missing when someone that you're close to dies. The only thing that time, which does not heal all wounds, is nonsense. It's a nonsense cliche. The only thing that time does in growing, maturing, and getting older and having distance, it gives you the tools to deal with it better.
Yeah.
But at no point is it done and not hurt. And I think that's universal. If it's not
Yes.
universal yet, it will be, because everybody's gonna die. At some
Yeah.
point, you are gonna lose someone that you didn't think you were gonna lose. And that's one of the things that if you write a song about that, everyone should be able to understand what that feels like, even if they can't. So
Yeah. Are those then some of
I
the?
got
I
to do
mean,
those.
I was gonna. I mean, I kind of figured that answer. um, do you find yourself with those songs, or even just the lyrics? Forget about even calling it a song, just putting the words down. Do you find those feelings and emotions easier to process then, compared to like if you were writing a song about, I don't know, something, beautiful and joyful? Do you find that there's more of a healing process going on when you're dealing with songs that are related to grief? Or
I think it's something that I have to do. I don't know that. I mean, like a feeling is not a thing that is ever done. It's an ongoing process. So, an example, on my first record, there's a song called North of 16, which is about a coworker who died by suicide when I was 17, she was 16, so the song's about her.
Hmm.
It is by no means is it a cheerful and happy song, and it's a song that I probably wrote a dozen, 2 dozen times because I have perfectionist tendencies, and even if I wasn't going to share it, I had to get it right for me.
Yeah.
Eventually end up on a record. It's one of those songs I've started and stopped and started and stopped and wrote over and over and finally figured out a way to say what I wanted to say. And I can't say, I mean, it was definitely helpful. It was hard to go sing it in the studio.
Yeah, I
That's
can
going to
imagine.
work. Right? You got to execute, but like these are real, actual feelings, and you got to just sing
Yeah.
right through them. Um, so the recording of it, while recording is enjoyable, recording the song that is that personal. I mean, for me, I just break it down into the future. The notes, you're not going to think about the lyrics, you're going to execute, you're going to play your part. And then when it's in the sing, I mean, you have to sing the lyrics, but just trying to make sure you're on the right pitch and all that
Yeah.
good stuff. But one thing that recording that made me realize is that I've always harbored a certain guilt over that because
Hmm.
they're always young. So young kids, when you're 17, you don't necessarily see things the way you do as an adult. But there
Yeah.
was definitely signs that this young lady was struggling. But you had to know what to look for and who to pay attention. And this is one of your typical, I mean, honor student, cheerleader, leader, class leader, respected, the kind of feminine fluent city uh, kind of kid that you would think this kid doesn't have any problems. But after she died by suicide, you start analyzing things and
Yeah.
seeing the signs. And to this day, I wish that 17-year-old me had been a little more, I guess, emotionally mature and able to
Yeah.
see what was going on because maybe I could have said something to someone that could have stopped it. Now, the writing that song has helped me to deal with. I mean, that was in what even year was that? That was in like '95.
Well, as you're sitting here
So
talking, I'm kind of like, doing the math in my head, just that, I mean, just age wise, that here you are referencing something that
94.
happened when you were 17, right?
Yeah,
And
94.
years and years
That's
and
a long time
years
ago, but
later.
it still hurts. It's never
Yeah.
gonna not hurt. But that song helps me to deal with it. And actually, strangely enough, it's probably not probably it's my favorite bass. It's weird, but
Yeah.
I'm actually really proud of the way I recorded that, which is I'm really bummed out anyone that listens to it. Go listen to it and don't listen to just listen to the bass part,
Just
and
listen to the
then you won't
bass.
be
Well,
bummed
tune out the lyrics. We'll just listen to the music. But I mean, that's important to realize, because I'm sure, like you said, I mean, we go through our lives and you're going to lose many people along the way, and certainly if you lose someone that young, there's more time to lose other people, and it's important to notice. I mean, it's just in the course of collecting these stories. I mean, I've had people that lost somebody, buried somebody 2 days prior to us sitting down and talking. And I've talked to
out. Oh
people
dear,
that,
that's
10 years, prior, and the feeling is still the same. Maybe
yeah,
it's easier to say and you don't get choked up as quickly, but
yeah.
it's still there.
It's easy to say, and it does. You as time passes, you've learned not to let it derail you. Where the pressure it is, right? Just grief really just makes you not function when it's
Yeah.
superhuman. But with time, again, it's still there. It never goes away. You just learn how to function, and you put it somewhere else. So
Yeah.
that first record, all that record is our songs about people dying or referencing people dying. Certainly easily various
Oof.
people. And the last song on the record touches briefly upon my faith because depending on what persuasion of faith that you happen to follow, many of them have some sort of afterlife and some sort of future hope. So I did touch on it briefly.
Yeah.
I don't really try not to write about that often because I know how my songs come out as creepy and I'd like people to enjoy them no matter what they believe, but
Yeah.
they won't remove it. Atheist, agnostic, whoever. Everybody can listen to my songs. But since that affects your worldview, sometimes it creeps in a little bit. But the
Yeah.
point that I was trying to make by writing a song about that is they also doesn't fix it. It's just another tool that you have at your disposal to deal with,
Sure. Yeah.
if that makes sense. And there are some people who are religious that will be like, that's to take away your pain. No, it's just another tool you have
Yeah.
to help you to deal with it and put distance between you and the way it feels. But so if I was going to list all the songs on a first record that have to do with sub-89 or something like that, it's obviously North of 16, Ohio, Ohio Sky, a little bit of centric. Ever is the last song on the record that's definitely about people dying. Carry On is more about friendship, but it is influenced by people
It's
dying.
got some kind of version of
That's
loss in there. Yeah.
almost, yeah, that's almost half the record.
Interesting. And throughout the years, then, how would you where would you where would you categorize all the other songs? Do you feel like you kind of float that direction still? Like if you counted them all up, is there some kind of
Not as much.
not as
Not as
much?
much. I feel like, well, it depends on who I'm reading. A lot of those, the first record are about a couple of specific people, and then, people keep dying, so they move on to writing songs about different people.
Yeah.
Wow, this sounds so morbid. But while I was working on my second record, my dad went through a lengthy illness and died. So there's a song I wrote in the hospital before he passed away, just kind of about the experience of being in a hospital. I don't
Yeah.
know, JD, if you've ever been to an ICU unit, and nobody up there is happy. This is the waiting room and the people who are there to
Yeah.
visit. Everybody in that unit is either gonna die or almost die. That's
Yeah.
You can categorize it into those two,
Yep.
either gonna die or almost die. So none of the people in there to visit are any kind of cheery,
Yeah.
and you shouldn't
It's
expect
just
them to be. And it's just
surrounded by
horrible.
that gloom.
It's an awful place, the ICU. And I spent a lot of time there in the waiting room, just observing people around me, and then learning about my dad's neighbors and kind of what was going on with them, and then just like, oh, this is awful. So I don't very rarely do I ever write music before I write music, but this is one where I wrote the lyrics in the hospital and then put the music to later. And that song is called Convalesce, which he did for a while before he died. But I was being a little cheeky, and I used one of the studio's really cool keyboards. It's a Fender Rhodes, and we made it sound like a little hospital beeping machine. You know how when you're in there, there's always a
Yeah.
machine beeping in it, right? So
Yep.
I've got a beep going on for that on a regular pattern, which I played on a beat that's played on an actual keyboard, which
Yeah.
I wanted to put the listener in the hospital. So
That's
if
neat.
people want to hear that, I will tell you that it's not remotely happy. But that's on a record I put out in 2019. And only place you're going to find that on my website, but it's called it because it's not on streaming. It's a little exclusive. Yeah, Convalesce is the name of that one. And it's more so about the hospital experience uh, than death, but it definitely talks about that feeling when you're in the waiting room or in the ICU unit, and you're looking around all the rooms, and you're like, oh, these people are
Yeah.
like all going to die, except for maybe these ones. They almost, but it's just not a very pleasant place to be.
Yeah. No, I agree. So for those of us that don't write music or even, just kind of listen to music on a flat basis, what's something that what's something that you would want people to pay attention to or think of more so when they hear a song or hear their favorite lyric in a song? What's something that you feel people don't?
What a fantastic question. I think first you should start with who wrote the song. And the reason I say that is a lot of modern popular music
Mhm.
is assembled in a factory, much like you would assemble a 4,000-pound vehicle.
Yeah.
There's an army of writers, and there's a process involved, and it's very powerful and corporate a hit that sells and not necessarily that. So I would say the first thing is, and this is not to say that they don't write good songs. They have to write good songs, or they wouldn't be doing
Right.
business. That's why it's popular. Right? There are a lot of people that feel they are good, else it would not be popular. But that's why I say start with the writer, because the song that your favorite pop star is singing, may probably and so someone's getting like as part of the corporate songwriting team.
Right.
And while they have to try to tap into personal emotions, there's not a lot of personal stuff in those songs because they can't be that.
Right.
They know how to hit universal emotions, and they know how to paraphrase, and they work really well with words and rhythm. But there's really not a lot to the words. Now, regardless of what genre of music you like, if the person who's writing the song is a performer, try to find out a little about their life and why they might have said what they said.
Yeah.
some of my favorite songwriters who perform, who write from their own experience. You can, if they're willing to talk about themselves, you can find if they're not. And some, people will teach you things, but almost all of them have some kind of experience that hurt them, and it ends up
Yeah.
in their music. Have something to say. Those are the kind of artists that I generally seek out. Is I'm much more drawn to performers that actually do their own writing because they have something to say, and
Yeah.
it's a lot more personal. Not to take away from performers that don't, because it's a skill set that is just not usually what I'm looking for when I'm trying to make an emotional connection with music. But I feel like if something in a song touches you on that personal level, as opposed to the let's go party level, it's probably because it came from a person that actually meant it.
That meant it. Yeah. Beautiful. Thank you. I'm certainly the same way.
I don't want people to. I don't want people to think that I'm saying that pop music is evil, because I'm not saying that. But yeah, definitely consider the source behind the art that you're consuming, and look deeper. And if you're not,
Yeah.
one of those deeper, that's fine. That's not. There's plenty of music that's not about soul searching and catharsis and that. It's just that I tend to gravitate more to people that are saying something in their
Yeah.
music.
For as long as I can remember, that's always been, my focus too. And like now as I've gotten older, go back, like you said, to the songs I probably listened to in middle school that, I still will pop on in the middle of the night, before I'm going to bed, I get lost down the rabbit hole of, oh, what was that band that, it's just like this one. And then you start, trying to figure it out all over again, and, what the lyrics are. And, as I've gotten older, I've realized not only just why, for me personally, but like why in general. And that's the artist that I'll, dive headfirst into, and, be like, okay, well, what else do they have? What am I missing? And, oh yeah, I want to watch them. I don't really love watching YouTube videos, but let me sit here for 20 minutes about an interview with them, because
I've done that.
they put something into it, and so you start watching everything. I just did it the other day with Mac Miller, and he wasn't on my radar until my brother introduced me to him way late in the game. But I think I sat there for a good 20, 30 minutes the other night, and I wasn't watching music videos. I wanted to hear them speak, or hear some small concert, or that, because you felt it, and it's a good point to make. I'm glad that's the answer that you found or had ready there.
Yeah.
Because it's good. It's
Something
true.
else that people should remember is, if you're in the music business, whether you are of the superstar variety or the just trying to make a living variety, all these people love music probably more than you. You have to be crazy to want to do music. It's a difficult way to make a living. So all of the people whose songs you're listening to, they love music so much. Go find out what they like, right?
Yeah.
Find out who your favorite artists are.
Yeah.
It'll tell you a lot about
Who they are.
where they're coming from musically and lyrically. But chances are, if there's a reason why you like your favorite artist work, chances are they're really influenced by their favorite artist, because something's new anymore. And there's only so many mix, and only so many sounds. And especially in Western music, there's certain things that we're conditioned to hear. But go find out whatever your favorite performer's favorite bands are, favorite artists, and look into the catalog.
And dive into
But it's
that.
a really easy way to find more stuff that you're going to love that you might not have known about.
Yeah, that's a good point. I like it. Well, thank you, Mike. Thank you for taking the time to share this story.
Yeah, no problem.